Your rights versus your reality. Recently in Britain, there was a very tragic event which kicked up a whole bunch of stuff in terms of um, whether or not people can do certain things, and in terms of the meme that went around, which will be the thumbnail for this. Don't protect your daughter. Teach boys not to attack. So we know from a self-defense, safety, security point of view that regardless of if you're male or female, if you are alone, away from a built-up area, away from a residential area, at night, the chances of something happening to you increase. If there's no witnesses and you're by yourself, there's a chance you make yourself an easier target. It has nothing to do with gender, has nothing to do with what you happen to be wearing. That's just unfortunately the nature of it. If there's no witnesses and someone's by themselves, they're an easier target to mug. Or assault, attack, sexually assault, rape, or murder. You have every right to go walking alone after nightfall in whatever part of the place you live. Yes, you do have the right to do this. The reality of the society we live in, however, is you put yourself in danger. You have the right to wear hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of jewellery, go into a high crime area and get drunk. You have every right to do that. But the reality of the society we live in is if you do that, you will wake up the next day with a hangover and you will have been robbed of all your jewellery. This is what we know. You have every right to leave your car with the door open, keys in the ignition, and it running. You have every right to do that. You can leave it like that, go away for half an hour, you have every right to do that. But we know in the society that we live in, the world today, the reality is, if you do that, when you get back half an hour later, the car will be gone. This is not victim blaming. Victim blaming is saying, well, you left your car there in a high crime area with the door open, the engine running, you deserve to have it stolen. That's victim blaming. Looking at the facts of it and saying, well, that was what we would predict would happen, that's not victim blaming. So a big problem we see is, if you say, don't teach girls to protect themselves, teach boys not to attack. This is a fallacy. It sounds good, it makes a lot of people feel better about themselves and the world they live in, but the fact is, the bad guys already know what they're doing is bad. This is why they do it after dark, this is why they do it away from witnesses, this is why they cover the tracks, they create an alibi to protect themselves, this is why they don't live stream it, this is why they don't go around bragging about what they did. They already know that it's wrong. So sitting down with them and teaching them again and again and again, don't do this, it's bad, they already know it is, they don't care. Oftentimes, the fact that it's a violation of somebody else's rights, that's why they do it. Yeah? If just sitting down and educating somebody, don't do this because it's wrong, don't do this because it's illegal, don't do this because it's against someone's rights, if that worked, you wouldn't have reoffenders going back into prison. Why that person is attacking is irrelevant. At a later date, you can step back and you can look at it and say, okay, so this guy, hypothetical guy, he was abused as a small child. He was physically abused by his mother, his auntie, and his grandmother. He recently lost his job. Because he lost his job, his girlfriend left him. And because he lost his job, he could no longer afford his medication. All this came together. He went a bit wiggy. He went, on a crazy rampage. And he's just beaten the living daylights out of a whole bunch of women in the city. Yeah? Okay, that's for the therapist to figure out at a later date. That's irrelevant for you right now. All that's relevant for you is that this psychopath is in front of you and he's coming to hurt you. Why he has decided to hurt you shouldn't even enter into the equation. All you need to be focused on is, this fucker isn't making me his next victim. Now, you do that by learning the skills to stop him. And unfortunately, I've already done a video on this called De-escalation in the receptive mind. At that point in time, you sitting down with him and chatting to him and giving him a cup of tea and a couple of biscuits and saying, this is wrong, that's not going to stop him. It's not going to have any effect. He does not speak that language anymore. So you need to be able to stop him physically. Now, whether that means you're aware of the surroundings and you can preemptively escape, which is good, or whether it means you actually have to get physical, you have to drill the bastard. Whatever it takes is what you need to do. You cannot now stand there and say, why should I have to protect myself? He should know better than to attack me. That does not work. We have proof that that does not work. In Britain, unfortunately, just a few weeks ago, there was a very tragic reminder that that does not work. A young lady was attacked and she was murdered. Instantly murdered by an off-duty police officer, the very people we look to protect us. So if our protectors cannot be trusted to protect us, we must learn to protect ourselves. Why you would not want your children, or your daughter, your mother, your girlfriend, your sister, whatever it be, why you would push don't teach girls to protect themselves is beyond me. Why you would not want someone to have an extra skill, I don't know. I think everyone should learn how to protect themselves. Everyone should learn how to protect each other. If we all work together, we can stop the bad guys. Unfortunately, the bad guys only speak a certain type of language, and that is, in that moment, physical force. It's what Gary Spears used to call, curing them. It doesn't mean killing them. It just means blunt force trauma to allow the innocent people, the good people, the law-abiding citizens to get away. Those people who are doing these attacks don't speak the same language as us. They don't work with the same logic that we work on. We sit down with each other and go, when you hit me and take my shit, that upsets me, it offends me. How would you like it if someone did it to you? Stop doing it. Logically, you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. I won't do it anymore. That is not the mentality that we are dealing with. What I'll say is this. Let's say you're in the jungle in India and you come across a fully grown tiger. Are you going to approach that tiger the same way you approach your house cat that you've got as a pet back home? No, because it's a totally different animal. That is how we must look at these people who commit these attacks. They're a totally different animal. Going about this animal the same way you'd go about yourself or about the people you know isn't going to work, because they don't speak that language, they don't operate on that wavelength. You need to teach people legitimate self-defense techniques. You need to teach people legitimate threat evasion techniques. Be aware of who's around you. Be aware of good avoidance. Be aware of good escape techniques. The idea that, well, why should I have to learn those? These people shouldn't be committing attacks. I get that, I do. But that's the equivalent of saying, well, if everybody else is sober when they're driving, why can't I be drunk when I drive? If they're doing what they're supposed to do, I shouldn't cause any accidents. I get that more needs to be done to punish people who commit these attacks, and there does. Life should mean life. Parole is parole. This is this. This is that. If you kill somebody and it's proven that you killed them, then 18 years should be the minimum. It shouldn't be coming out after 6.5 for good behaviour or because you've repented and found God. But again, that's for after. All I'm concerned with is the right fucking now when this prick is trying to smash your face in. You're not always going to be around people who can protect you. The other thing I would say is if it's not on you to know how to protect yourself, it's on these guys to know not to attack you. Who are you depending on to teach these guys not to attack you? So is it other women teaching these men not to attack women? Or is it other men teaching these men not to attack women? It's a minefield. It makes a great soundbite. It makes a really cool looking picture. And it's something we can all go with. Yes, this is how we should do it. But it doesn't work in reality, because the reality that we live in does not match up with your rights. You have the right not to be burgled. People still go to prison every day for burglary. You have the right not to be attacked. People go to prison every day for attacking people. You have the right not to be raped or murdered. Rapes and murders still get tried every single fucking day around the world. Just because you have a right to do it doesn't mean that is what will happen in the reality we live in. Because, as I've mentioned, the bad fuckers don't give a shit about your rights. So standing there going, well, I've got the right not to be attacked, is fucking irrelevant to that bastard. What is relevant is, I've also got the right to defend myself, and I'm bloody good at it. So, may have lost a few of you, I may have pissed a lot of people off, but that's where we're at. Just walking through saying, well, I've got the right not to be attacked. I've got the right not to be run over, but I still stop, look and listen before I cross the road. We are only dependent on ourselves. We are responsible for our own safety. We are responsible for our own lives. It's not my responsibility to pay your rent. Yeah, if you want to live in a really nice apartment or a really nice house, it's your responsibility to go outside into the real world, get a job, and pay for it. Exactly the same thing with self-defense and safety. It's not anybody else's job to look after you. It's not his job to teach this maniac not to attack you. It's your job that if this maniac comes a calling, you know what to do. Whether that be avoidance, evasion, or clocking a bastard. I understand this isn't the most palatable thing in the world to be talking about right now. I understand that a lot of people don't want to talk about this. I understand that a lot of people would like this to be a very easy, one-size-fits-all cover-all type of answer to it, but it's not. Sticking your head in the sand and saying, well, it won't affect me, that's a bad way to do it. That's usually what the victims say. Bad guys exist. The bad people are out there, and they are always looking at their next victim. They're always looking at their prey. You can do a handful of things that stop you being that prey. But in order to do those things, you have to learn them. In order to learn them, you have to be aware that this shit happens, and you need something. You need the education to defend yourself. Simple as that. I've got the right to travel. It's not everybody's responsibility to drop what they're doing and drive me. If I'm that hell-bent on travelling, it's my responsibility to learn how to drive, buy a car, drive myself. I've got the right to be fit and healthy. Well, it's my responsibility to make sure I'm buying the right food. It's my responsibility to make sure I'm going out and getting enough exercise. Yeah? I'm injured. In Britain, we've got the NHS. Brilliant. I've got the right to healthcare. But it's my responsibility to get myself to a doctor or a hospital. Yeah? We are responsible for ourselves. So, go at it with the right mentality. Talking to the animals that commit these attacks won't work if we're talking to them the same way we talk to each other, because they work on a different wavelength. At that time, when the attack is being committed, trying to understand why they're doing these things is irrelevant and it won't work, and I personally don't give a shit why they're causing this attack. I just care about you being able to do enough to get away safely. So yeah, that's my little rant on this over. As more evidence and information comes out, I'll probably make another clip on it. I would imagine I'm pretty much going to say the same thing. It's up to you to learn to defend yourself. You can't expect the animals out there to stop attacking just because you've told them not to. Again, a lot of these bastards get off on it. It's the fact that they're, if we look at the statistics of rape is often a power thing. It's not actually sexually motivated, it's a power. It's, I'm forcing this on you. I'm so dominant over you. So telling them, oh, you shouldn't do that because it upsets the other person. Yeah, that's why they do it. You're never going to stop racism by banning words. Don't call this ethnic group by that word. Why? Well, it's very upsetting to them. It offends them. Yeah, that's why we do it. That's the mentality we're working with. Yeah, you've got to go to the root of the problem in that case and explain that we're all the same. Doesn't matter what colour our skin is, doesn't matter what political or religious or whatever type of leanings we have. That's how you stop that. When it comes to physical attacks, you've got to go to the root, but the root isn't telling people don't do it. They're doing it because they enjoy it. The only thing that will stop them is you being able to do it to them first. I'm not suggesting you go out and start smacking people, but I'm saying learn some self-defense, educate yourself on how these attacks happen. There's a reason why we have certain things over and over, why we say lock your doors, don't be out alone at night, don't get so drunk that you can't stand up on your own steam. Because statistically, these are things that make you vulnerable, and the predators will go for the vulnerable prey. So until next time, train hard, train smart, stay safe.